What's up, guys? Coach MANdler here, Team Swole Patrol. Got a kick-ass, chest-dominant Flex Friday routine for you today. But before we get to that routine, I want to share with you an Ask MANdler question that I have a nice little Ask MANdler response for. This one comes from a dude I actually saw in the gym today. Forgot his name, but nevertheless, if he's watching this, he probably knows I'm talking directly to him and to many of you out there that have this question. It's very simply put, hey dude, I'm a bodybuilder and I'm just wondering if lifting heavy will actually help growth. All right, so it's kind of funny. Around this time of the year, every single year, a lot of my clean-eating, big, burly, bikinied brothers, the bodybuilding crowd, they come out of the woodworks like a bunch of hungry rabid bears wanting to know what's necessary to get as big as possible. They start ditching the cardio, eating more carbs, fatty meats, and living the high life. And they want to know what's necessary to put on as much muscle as they possibly can. And to answer your question on whether or not lifting heavy, doing max effort work, anything above 90% of your 1 rep max in your core lift, if that's going to build more muscle mass than the traditional kind of 50 to 80% of that 1 rep max range, my answer is yes and no. No, in the sense that if you lift heavy exclusively without doing any high rep, high volume work, you're simply not going to have the time under tension that will get that kind of inflammatory response in your muscles necessary to induce more growth. All right, so it's just not going to be enough time under tension to create more growth. But the answer to the question on the flip side of things is yes, as long as you follow extremely heavy 90% or heavier work in the core lift and follow that up with more volume, that's going to be an actually very potent way to build more size. And the reason being is actually very simple. Whenever you're lifting heavy, your body essentially forces greater recruitment of a higher number of motor units. And within that means you're activating more muscle fibers. Now, given the fact that you need some time under tension to force more growth, you're simply not going to be able to rely on, like I said, strictly heavy movements throughout the entirety of your routine. Yeah, you might induce some hypertrophy, but it's not going to be the same as if you lift extremely heavy to recruit as many motor units and thus muscle fibers as necessary, and then follow that really heavy work up with some supplemental accessory work after your core lift that is very high volume. So to give you an idea of what I'm talking about here, I'm very simply going to do some heavy lifting in the core movement, which is a 1 rep max I'm doing today on the bench press, and then following that up with high volume work in the muscle group that I'm trying to target more growth in. Very novel concept, right? Focus on heavy movements to recruit more motor units and more muscle fibers, and then just get them to work and just bang the shit out of them with some high volume work on the tail end of the heavy lifting. Trust me, this is a great way to force more growth. So without further ado, let's get to today's Flex Friday routine, and promise me from now on, you're not going to bitch out on the heavy work. It's worthwhile, not just for the means of being able to brag about numbers, but simply put, you don't want to look like an athlete but be able to perform like a bitch. You want to be able to look good and perform good. Let's get started. All right, so getting started, one of the central themes that I always preach to you about is the importance of being able to activate more muscle fibers for both the ability to produce more force as well as to stress more muscle fibers for greater growth. But the other thing that's a solid and central theme of your training, or at least should be, is making sure that you activate and stress
the areas surrounding your spine in the right manner. So these core activation exercises, these kind of the hip flexion with neutral spine and these anti-extension based exercises, as well as anti-rotation and anti-flexion, are going to be fantastic ways for you to not only improve musculature in your midsection and improve quality of movement, but overall help prevent you from getting all snapped up. Because damn, if you're trying to get jacked and strong as possible, you're damn sure not going to be able to if you're rocking a snapped up, fucked up back. So make sure you do those core activation type exercises, because they're a fantastic way to get to where you can move better. Okay, so after that core activation work, kind of getting back to things, I want to talk about the heavy lifting here. Okay, so like I said, the mechanism for growth in regards to heavy lifting isn't necessarily the heavy lift itself. You might get some hypertrophy effect from it, but the real value in it is what happens when your nervous system is forced to recruit more motor neurons, which thus will help activate more muscle fibers. It's what you do after this heavy lift that will dictate whether or not you can maximize the potential of getting growth from heavy lifting. It's not necessarily the heavy lifting itself, but the ability for your body to recruit more muscle fibers. And once you have them standing at attention, you can activate more of them, stress them for a prolonged period of time with some time under tension work, and that is what will allow you to get stacked and jacked. So I do that 1 rep max on the bench, and after that, I'm feeling electric. Okay, I feel like everything's running smoothly, and I've got more muscle fibers working. At this point, I'm working on increasing time under tension in the areas that I'm trying to force more growth in. And given the fact that for all you bodybuilders out there, I wanted to give you a chest dominant day, kind of like a performance bodybuilding chest building day, where we're increasing chest hypertrophy, but also doing so in a manner that will help us be a more powerful bench presser. This is a fantastic way to do it. So you notice they're all typically going to be compound movements. I don't do many isolation-based movements. It's not that I don't think they're going to initiate more growth, but in terms of training economy, the time spent stressing more muscle fibers via a compound movement is going to be far more conducive to building more muscle than just hitting it with an isolation movement. So if you are going to do those isolation movements, I would say do them at the tail end of your routine, where you're kind of more spent and you're just trying to get one last major kick-ass pump to increase the time under tension in that area. So it'll still initiate some growth. Don't let anyone tell you that isolation work won't initiate growth, but it's just the amount of growth potential that you can get from more compound movements, given the fact that they recruit more muscle fibers and stress a greater number of them, is something that makes them more attractive to me for growth. But like I said, if you do want to do them, just throw them in at the tail end of a workout, or even a tail end of a circuit that you do, where you do a compound movement, then finish it up with a nasty ass pump. But this is where we're just going to finish things up. The last thing I'm going to do to really hit the pecs in a different movement pattern is going to be those dips. Whenever you're doing them, just kind of lean forward and keep your upper back tight. And don't be afraid to go to failure. That just means more time under tension for more growth and a greater lockout in your bench.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed today's Flex Friday routine and want to learn more in-depth, advanced ways that you can program to build more powerful, dense, and ripped up muscle mass, then do yourself a favor right now and pick up your free copy of the muscle building blueprint that I've lined up for you by clicking on this button right here, or if you're on your cell phone or your tablet, simply go down to the description area right now, down there, and click on the first link that you see. When you do that, I'll take you to the free gift page, which outlines every free chapter that you're going to get in this gift, as well as what you need to do in order to allow me to email it directly to your inbox free of charge. Very powerful tool to help you kickstart your program and initiate more growth So definitely want to get this right now if you haven't done so already. And of course, if you haven't done so already, make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any of the kick-ass tips and routines I'll be hooking you up with in the future. Appreciate your time, guys. Have a good one. MANdler